Good morning, Sue Smith sitting in for Elias with you this morning, and just watching President Trump and Prime Minister Carney. They are giving a little bit of a press conference. It's not clear whether they've met already. I think they're about to go into their meeting, but President Trump is already invoking the last G7 meeting, which didn't end well, which ended up with him leaving in a huff because of Russia and kind of already bashing his predecessors. So we're going to keep an eye out on that for you, of course, and that is going to be going on, the G7, that is, all day today. So stay tuned to CJAD for the latest on that. Right now, though, it's the day after Father's Day, which is a moment when many of us reflect on aging parents and their care. And maybe you found yourself wondering, when is it time to consider moving a loved one into a long-term care home, which is never an easy decision, especially after everything we saw during the pandemic. But sometimes families just cannot offer the level of care that they need. But there are stories like the one out of Quebec where an elderly woman, this is just coming out today, was left alone for 12 hours in a bathroom at a private seniors residence. The family is suing. And so that shakes our confidence in the systems that are meant to protect us. So how do you decide? When do you decide? And how do you know that they're going to be safe once they're there? Matt Vecchio is the owner of Lianas Senior Transition Support and Premier Home Care and the host of Life Unrehearsed here on CJD. Joins me on the line. Good morning.
Good morning, Sue.
So what are some of the signs that a family should consider moving a loved one into a long-term care facility?
Yeah, like you say, never an easy decision just to even think about it. However, I would say there's two particular areas to focus in on. And that's first and foremost the health and safety of your loved one. And secondarily, probably just as important, the health and well-being of the caregiver or caregivers. And if I could break it into the two, first of all, if for your loved one, you need to look, is it safe at home? You know, sometimes there's mobility issues that will start to be worrisome. The stairs become difficult to navigate. Basic activities of daily living like bathing and dressing become an issue or even a health hazard for slips and falls. Not being able to transfer out of bed or from a chair or a big concern, and then you can get into some incontinence issues. So those are physical concerns, but there are also cognitive concerns for those that might have some mild onset dementia or Alzheimer's, where now all of a sudden you might be wandering or what they call a flight risk in the industry, which is a concern. And medication management, not being able to take your pills in the right times, the right quantities. So those are important factors to consider for the loved one. However, Sue, I would also add that it's so important really for the caregiver itself. You sometimes you get into that role of caregiver and it starts off with minor and I got this, I could handle this. And over time it starts to build up and the physical and health and well-being of the caregiver starts to be affected. And sometimes family will chip in and help out. But the reality of a caregiver's life, who's probably never been formally trained, is that they're in it 24/7. And that starts to take a toll. And that also has to be a consideration when it might be time to transition.
So, I mean, it's one thing to make the decision to transition, but it's another to choose where. And some people are lucky enough to be able to afford, I say lucky, but some obviously private residences have also been under the microscope. But often you don't really have much choice. I mean, how do you know if where you're going is good?
Right. Very good question. Something we deal with on a daily basis, and we will have to divide that into public and private. So obviously, if you're going the route of private, yes, there is certainly a cost to it, but you have a lot more choice in terms of geography, the types of care, where you want to go. It does come at a cost, though, and not very many families can afford private, but if you can, they're going that route. If you have no choice but to go the public route, then you have no choice but to go through the CLSC. And you've got to get an evaluation done. If your loved one gets approved in that evaluation, they will then provide you with a list of public residences in your geographic area. And sometimes it's a little bit worrisome. Am I picking the right place or not? So that's where you really have to tap into the social worker that's helping you out. Talk to other people within the industry. Go visit the residences, which you have the right to do. And that will help give a little peace of mind that you're indeed choosing the right specific place. In fact, they give you the option of choosing 2 or 3 of those places so that when the first one becomes available for a permanent bed, that's where your loved one will go.
It did feel like the news out of CHSLDs was better. And then this, story comes out of Quebec City of a woman who was left alone. It was a private residence. And they are, putting the blame on, I think, one employee, it looks like, who should have checked in on her and didn't. But I mean, what do you say to reassure people that, their loved one is going to be taken care of properly in these places?
Yeah, so I'd like to address, in general, CHSLDs. We'll call them public residences pre- and post-pandemic. And then specifically with this particular residence, really sad story. It was a private residence, although the lady involved was in an independent living section of the residence, of the private residence, very popular in Quebec. In this particular case, she had a gastro, and she pulled the pull cord, and they came to see her, and she was isolated in her apartment. Everything was fine. However, a worker was supposed to come in and check in on them. They did that, no response at the door, and they didn't bother taking it further.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the lady was in the bathroom. She was unconscious. And it's a real shame. So that was an absolutely negligence on the retirement home's place. Okay. I do want to, not muddy the waters and put that into the category of CHSLDs in general. And what I will say, Sue, there has been a marked improvement, we'll call it pre- and post-pandemic. If there was a silver lining of this terrible pandemic, it's shown a spotlight on the treatment of our elderly and the housing of our elderly, which today I would say has drastically improved. Is it perfect? Far from it. But the governments, not just in Quebec, but right across the country, have recognized that there was improvement that needed to be done. Staff to resident ratios have improved. The quality of care have improved. The environment has improved. Some would say even the food has improved. So is it still high levels of care? Yes, it is. That's a tough environment. It's tough to care for the elderly like that. But I have heard time and time again from a caregiver or a spouse that have placed someone into a public residence or a private residence, and they actually coming back to me say, you know what, Matt, better than expected. I'm pleasantly surprised. So it's encouraging, Sue. Like I said, we have a long ways to go, but it's certainly better than pre-pandemic.
So what do you tell families who feel conflicted or guilty about making this decision, which would be probably every family?
Oh, 100%. I mean, let's face it, most people want to age at home for as long as possible. And there are measures in place. The CLSC can still provide home care, not always easy. Some families choose to go private home care. They'll try to do that. It does, though, become a short to medium term solution eventually. For the sake of the loved one or the caregiver, if it's just too overwhelming, then yes, then a decision needs to be made. And I think most people will say, as difficult as it is, it usually ends up being for the better for both the loved one, who is now getting probably a better level of care, and certainly for the caregiver that is actually being able to sleep better at night.
It's always super tough. Thanks for helping us navigate it, Matt. Appreciate it.
All right, Sue. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
That's Matt Del Vecchio. He's the owner of Lianas Senior Transition Support and Premier Home Care. He also hosts Life Unrehearsed right here on CJAD.